Mike Damergis here with Jim Hickey, and Chris Archer called you one of the most intelligent people he knows. So if that's the case, how are we going to fix the pitching problem for starting pitchers to go deeper than just 5 innings?
Well, if that's the case, he doesn't know too many people if I'm one of the most intelligent that he knows. But I don't know if it's something that needs to be fixed. It's not a starting pitcher issue as much as it is a baseball issue and just the way that we choose to use them or not to use them or to employ the bullpen. So I say this all the time. If pitchers are conditioned, we condition them to do what we're going to ask them to do. And if pitchers were conditioned to go deeper and deeper into games, if that's what we wanted out of them, then there's no doubt in my mind that they can do that. But I think what we're doing as an industry is conditioning them to, try to get 5 innings, maybe 6. Even 6 is like the new complete game now, it seems. But for me personally, and I also think for most of the winning teams, if you just go back over the last few years and you look at the winning teams are going to have starting pitchers that have more innings under their belts than the teams that didn't win.
In 1975, Catfish hunted through 328 innings, 30 complete games. At what point did we really start to see the change as far as pitchers shortening the games?
Well, certainly that's almost incredible. It's almost unbelievable to hear numbers like that, but that was what those pitchers were conditioned to do, and that's what they were expected to do. And I really think that even this generation of pitchers, if that's what they were trained to do, that they could do that as well, but nobody wants to do that. But I really think that the change started probably in about the mid-'70s, right about that time. And then, of course, when you started with the specialization of the bullpens, when Tony La Russa started, was one of at least the forerunners of starting to shorten the game a little bit by having specific roles for specific relief pitchers. You saw that start to take place. And then with the advent of the injuries and all the money that was involved, you just saw a lot of organizations and the industry as a whole just start to try to take care of their assets a little bit more.
Is this a crazy idea? Because you are an intellectual, as Archer said. Do you see a time where baseball goes to 7 innings? For, number one, for fan participation, the attention span, and saving pitcher arms?
I really don't think so, but there's a lot of things that have happened in baseball that a few years back I would have said, no, I don't ever foresee that happening either. But I think one of the big attractions about baseball is the history and the records and the things, and they're held in very, very high regard. And if you fundamentally change the game from a 9-inning game to a 7-inning game, it kind of contaminates all those records, and it would make it, it just wouldn't make it, I guess, as romantic as baseball has been as a whole. There's certainly an issue to be addressed there in terms of length of game and in terms of fan interest and things of that nature, but I don't really foresee that happening.
Talk about your pitching staff here. Team loses Jake Arrieta, but you guys are holding your own. It's at some point, as we've seen in the playoffs, teams that go far, like we saw last year with Justin Verlander, you really need an ace to take control in a short series.
Well, generally it's a power pitcher. You got to have a couple of power pitchers in the playoffs to make your way through the playoffs into the final game of the season. But this pitching staff as a whole, I would say, has underperformed as a whole just because of some inconsistencies in the ability or the inability to go a little bit deeper into the games. But a lot of that stuff was also our decision to remove a pitcher from the game earlier than you normally would for a pinch hitter, or just because our bullpen was so good or the bullpen was rested at that particular time. But I think you'll see us take a couple of turns through the rotation, and I think it might be happening right here, right now, where you get the 10 or 11 or 12 consecutive good starts and you win 8 or 9 or 10 of those ball games, and that's how you separate.
Your closer, Brandon Morrow, was a reliever, then starter, then reliever again. A lot of guys that can mess him up. We saw that with Jobber Chamberlain. Talk about his performance this year.
His performance so far has been great. His performance last year in the second half of the season with the Dodgers was impeccable as well. And I had the pleasure of watching Brandon from the other side. He took a no-hitter 2 outs into the 9th inning against the Tampa Bay Rays a few years back, and it was one of the more amazing games I've ever seen pitched. It was an infield single. The 27th out of the game, it was an infield single, and he also struck out 17 that day, and he was really, really impressive. But he's been nothing but impressive here so far as well.